what an honor and privilege to introduce our highly esteemed guest speaker this evening. He's a minister, author, coach. He's the executive pastor of ICGC Christ Temple and a co-founder of the Springboard Roadshow Foundation. He acts as a lead consultant of Legacy and Legacy, a human capital development consultancy. He has many awards accredited to his name, the recent being the exclusive Man of the Year award for 2018 in the mentorship category. He has pioneered a lot of programs, including one with MasterCard Foundation and Solaridad. He has donated books to support the second and third cohorts of the Central Leadership Program. He is currently a board member and a fellow of the African Leadership Initiative West Africa. His eloquence and how he carries himself in public is one to be envied. He's married to Mrs. Comfort Ocran, and they both do ministry and corporate work together. Fun fact, he's a lover of Ebo stage plays and also plays tennis. I believe there's so much to learn from our guest this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Albert Ocran.
All right, thank you very much. I'm talking today about how to have a presence, and my sub-theme is personal branding as a key to business and career excellence. Personal branding as a key to business and career excellence. I would like to start by putting out a few pictures that I would like you to help me identify. I deliberately left out the top hits, the young people that you know very well, that you can easily identify, but it's deliberate. So type in the chat box if you can. I'll leave out the first one. If you don't get that one, you shouldn't be on this program. So let's start with the second person. Let me see the chat box and see who is the second person. All right, so many of you have got it right. That's Dr. Joyce Ayi. I'm going to go on to the next person. Super. That's Grace Amelbing, the founder of the FC Group. Her contribution to national development and her contribution to the beauty industry, you can't just not know her. All right, let's go to the next person. Right, Albert Essien, the former chief executive of the EcoBank Transnational Group in the whole West Africa, a Ghanaian heading a West African or Trans-African bank. Let's go to the last one. And that one, if you don't get it right, you're not a young person. All right. What do all these people have in common? Please type one word for me, in your opinion, for those who know. The discipline of using one word is a very tough thing to learn, but it's very helpful because leadership involves sometimes having to use one word to describe a very complex situation. All right, let me tell you what impresses me about these people with your kind permission. So I happen to be personally connected to each of them, and I can tell you that each of them has made very specific, deliberate choices at a certain time in their lives that has significantly progressed or projected them to a very high pedestal on the global stage in their fields. I would jump the chancellor because you've had a personal interaction with him, and I suspect that he shared his own story with you. I also want to believe that if you're on this program, you may have heard Dr. Joyce Ayi speak. Have you? Not yet. Not yet. But if you listen to the story of Dr. Joyce Ayi, she would tell you how she grew herself by deliberate choices and made personal choices to project her from where she was to become Minister of Information, a Minister of the Gospel, the CEO of the Chamber of Mines, and now a multi-dimensional leader in various fields and on the national front. Dr. Grace Amelbing is somebody that I've sat in class with at the MBA level, and I recall when I started business in the early 90s, I would literally carry wall hangings to her shop at Circle, just next to the overhead, and go and sell the wall hangings there with my degree in economics and everything. And she at that time was also selling cosmetics as a beginning, and she went on to build the most noticeable brand in cosmetics in this country with an institution to boot, and transition from herself to the next generation of her business. A very notable, significant leader. Let me mention two bankers next. The first is Albert Essien, who walked into Ecobank Transnational and told himself that he will be the MD of the bank, and became the MD of the bank 12 years later. Not just the bank, but the bank across West Africa. The next is my classmate, Kweku Beduado. Again, he also was, I recall, in our days in secondary school, something very funny happened. The three of my mates were sitting on the balcony talking about what they will become in future. And if I threw in perspective, that was about 1982. That's about 40 years ago, if I may say so. And he said he would become a big-time corporate leader, a banker. The second person said he will become a big-time medical practitioner. The third person, unfortunately, cracked a joke and said, when you guys go to Yankee and you're coming back, I'll meet you at the airport and carry your bags. It will not surprise you to know that the one who said he will become a banker became the first Ghanaian managing director of the Standard Chartered Bank, went on to become an even bigger position as the CEO of Stanchart for South Africa and Southern Africa. That's his current position. To make it even more, I won't talk about the person who said you go to the airport out of respect for him, a classmate, so I won't mention that. But the more interesting part of that is that when he entered the bank first, he went straight to the MD and asked him, what does it take to be the MD? And the MD gave him a set of tips, which he wrote down in his notebook. And 10 years to the day, when he walked to the MD's office to ask a young person who has been employed by the bank, what does it take to become MD? Guess what? In the very 10th year, he was the MD of the Standard Chartered Bank. Friends, that simply talks about deliberateness. And the day I interviewed him about this story, he actually brought the notebook to the studio and showed me the writing, the tips that his MD gave him. And I took a picture and put it on Facebook. The final person is Ocran Kwame, who you all know very, very well. And out of the several things that you may know about him as a musician, my personal choice is the fact that he was dyslexic when he was in school and therefore could not relate to anything mathematical, anything that involved figures and accounting. And his father was a top accountant. So unfortunately for him, because very little was known about dyslexia and learning disabilities, it was assumed that he was lazy and his mother was a teacher. So they would beat him at home and then take him to school and permit his teachers to beat him as well. So he will be abused physically at home and abused in class, and he cannot complain to his teachers, his parents too, because the beating in the school was sanctioned by his own parents. When he discovered that he loved poetry and loved the arts and loved to interpret things with language and style, guess what? He was fortunate to get a teacher who converted every subject into poetry for him. And so he learned every subject in poetry. And after getting 9s in his first O-levels, wrote again and passed, went on to do his first degree, went on to do a second degree, and is currently doing a doctorate. What do all these people have in common? A certain deliberateness of choice and a long-term perspective that is yielding visible, tangible, and if I may say so, admirable results.